Welcome to Smash Fiction, the podcast where we pit two or more fictional characters against one another in a battle of strength, or wits, or the unspeakable, heart-pounding horrors of the unknown that can actually be coldly explained with logic and rationality, which, while comforting in an immediate and superficial fashion, actually serves to rob the world of the sense of magic and mystery that once permeated our primitive lives. Back when we didn't have the entirety of human knowledge at our fingertips, and both the bright lights of the night sky and the empty blackness peeking out from within the deepest and darkest corners of the earth were things of great and terrible majesty, not just entries on Wikipedia. Then again, maybe the magic only goes away when we stop looking for it, when we assume, in the ultimate act of Homo sapiens hubris, that we have found all the secrets there are to find, confronted everything there is to fear. That sound, coming from under your bed, may very well be just the wind rattling a loose floorboard. But that doesn't mean there's nothing under there. And if the horrible monster actually is the guy who ran the cookie stand at the mall, isn't it still worth asking what kind of madness happened in that man's life to make him pull that zombie werewolf mask over his face? Maybe the true darkness and the true light can actually be found within ourselves, and it is our hearts, minds, and souls that contain the magic, and all that great and terrible majesty. Anyway, this week, Five Nights at Freddy's versus the Scooby Gang!
Welcome to the show, H.P. Lovecraft!
I regret every decision I've ever made in my life that led me to this point.
Hey Miles, what was it that Shakespeare said was the soul of wit again?
Length. Length is the soul of wit.
You know what? That's exactly what he would say, and then he would just point to
Shakespeare
his
don't talk to me about fucking Shakespeare. Shakespeare was like, oh, let me be brief. 5 pages later, I'm done being brief. Fuck you, William.
Also, Miles, not to nitpick, but you didn't say and see who would win.
And see who would win.
There we go.
There we go, we'll do it.
No turning back now. Your ears belong to them. They've come to shout some bullshit, to lie and to condemn. It's true that they were bloody, cut above the rest. So just let them drag you down to smash Toberfest.
For Fred, Daphne, Velma, Shaggy, and Scooby, it's just another average evening. Which, of course, means they have a mystery on their hands. There have been some strange goings-on at a local pizzeria. Normally, a place experiencing high turnover on the nighttime security shift isn't terribly out of the ordinary, but Freddy Fazbear's Pizza seems to go through a disturbing number of night shift security employees, and the most recent one, Stephen Langley, who had reportedly been overheard training his own replacement, has gone missing. Fortunately for the good people of whatever town this actually takes place in, where there's a mystery, there's a groovy-looking hippie van containing 5 fearless and skilled investigators of the paranormal, and another one containing the Scooby Gang.
Sick burn.
Man, you showed the 1970s. They'll shut up now.
It's the latter that actually concerns us tonight. Those other guys are busy using drugs to open their third eyes and talk to aliens or whatever. I will admit that it takes copious amounts of Scooby snacks to coax the gangly and cowardly Shaggy and his sort of talking dog into Freddy's, but maybe not as many as you'd initially think. First of all, there's nothing to be afraid of in this particular pizza establishment, unless you're scared of adorable animatronic children's companions like Freddy Fazbear, Bonnie the Bunny, Chica the Chicken, and Foxy the Pirate Fox. Second of all, Velma has a foolproof plan. The new security guard, Zach Ford, is out of town and doesn't show up for another 5 days. Realizing the manager was in a jam, Velma offered to cover the night shift until the new guy arrives. Velma does what she's supposed to and monitors the building using the cameras in the security office. The rest of the gang checks out the other rooms and solves the mystery, and 5 nights from now they get back in their van and move on, proud to have done what they do best. Right. Of course, the big flaw in this plan is that Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy aren't staying put. In fact, they're wandering around the pizzeria, stuffing any human, or dog, they find, into an animatronic suit, killing them instantly. What's worse, this place was apparently wired up by a crack addict or something, because what little power there is gets drained away by using the cameras, the lights, and the security office doors. And when the darkness comes, is when Freddy and his friends get you. Or sometimes just when you look away for too long, they get you then too. Or sometimes just like randomly. Anyway, it isn't long after hearing her first ominous phone message from the previous employee and seeing the words "It's me" flash before her eyes that Velma, with a muttered Jinkies, begins to realize something is terribly wrong. But she's already sent her friends out into the darkness and, like it or not, she took a job. She and the rest of the Scooby Gang have 5 nights to figure out what exactly is haunting Freddy Fazbear's Pizza and make it out alive in the process. Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy, meanwhile, have 5 nights to make themselves some adorable friends. Permanently! Will the Scoobies prove that the power of sheer gumption and a terrified Great Dane is enough to overcome any ghost? Or will Freddy and his friends once again commit murder by jump scare? I don't know, I'm not as into, like, Halloween in October as most people, so I haven't given this a whole lot of thought, which means I, Miles Schneiderman, will be your judge this week. Representing the Scooby Gang are Dan Mulcairn,
Old Man Miles!
Oh, so good.
and Megan Bob.
And you would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for those meddling advocates.
I may yet get away with it, Bob. Representing Team Freddy's are Claire Mulcairn,
Scooby-Dooby-Doo, where are you? Oh, there you are, I think. But I think some of you's also over there, and I think there's some bits you smeared on that wall over there.
Oh, that's good.
and Kit Mulcairn. Not scared enough by this match, you guys. In order to determine who goes first this week, I asked each team to ring in the second episode of Smashtoberfest by telling me something that would scare the living shit out of me. Bob and Dan were like, "Hey Miles, the seas are acidifying, the climate is warming, hurricanes are just lining up around the world to punch everyone in the face, there's gonna be a nuclear war with North Korea, and we live in a cold, harsh, and utterly indifferent universe." Kit and Claire were like, "Hey Miles, the seas are acidifying, go swim in them! Go on! Go swim in the acid sea! We know how scared you are of the ocean when it's just water, well now it's fucking acid! Go swim in the acid!" So they will be going first.
Wait, I have to ask
we were
you.
going for more of the psychological horror angle.
Are you actually afraid of the ocean?
Miles is
I'm
secretly
terrified of the
coral. That's the thing. You didn't know that, but I figured it out. I put
That
all the
is
clues
such a
together.
nerd joke.
Oh my god.
You know what?
Where are my
Podcast
zoology
over.
peeps at?
Podcast over. We're done. Team Freddy's.
Monsters in this particular mystery aren't people in costumes. They aren't animals painted in glow-in-the-dark paint, and unfortunately, none of them are a giant burger monster with the voice of Uncle Phil from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. They are irresponsibly powerful, highly mobile machines possessed by the vengeful spirits of murdered kids whose need to kill any and all night staff is only rivaled by their desire to entertain at children at parties. Oh, so nice, so kind. They still have it in them, at least. If they find a human after hours, some will attempt to shove your shitty human body into one of the lifeless animatronics, or they might shove an unused animatronic chassis into your shitty human body.
Only to play dead.
Some are thought to simply bite through your shitty human skull. Regardless of how it's actually done, if you get caught by one of Freddy's crew, you die. That is one of the few things the game makes terribly clear. All of them are strong enough to easily overpower a human being, which is probably why it takes a lot of electrical power to keep the doors to the office shut. Because why the Fazbear else would you need power to keep a door shut? And sometimes these doors just like the buttons just don't work. Like, this has happened in multiple games. It's not just one person's glitch, it happens. Though all of them move quickly, as we see during jump scares, there are a couple that move extraordinarily quickly. Possibly even supernaturally quickly. Foxy, the animatronic that lurks in Pirate Cove and waits for you to look away long enough to go chomp your booty, is the only one we see actively running on the camera. Oh, fucks me up every time. It's so creepy. If Velma was lucky enough to notice in time, she'd have a split second to slam the door shut, all the while having to make sure Freddy hasn't snuck into her blind spot like he do. Then there's Bonnie, the blue rabbit, that seemingly teleports around the building. She has the ability to go from one room to another without actually entering the rooms in between. So spoopy. It makes her one of the most annoying animatronics to deal with in the game, but to the Scooby crew, it'll mean a dead-eyed bunny will jump out from behind and fix them with a chassis enema.
Ugh.
That's exactly the reaction I wanted.
Ugh. It's more horrifying than anything actually in the game.
Oh my god, a chassis enema.
In order to solve this scenario, it's not enough for Mystery Inc. to survive, which is already going to be a tall order in and of itself. They'll have to solve the mystery of what's been going on at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. And that's a mystery that has been plaguing the internet for years. Current consensus is that the animatronics are haunted by the ghosts of dead children who are in some cases killed by a serial killer and in some cases crushed by said animatronics in circumstances that may or may not have been accidental, but the evidence for the mystery is scattered across multiple games and it is only ever the tiniest hints here and there. Compare that to the difficulty of the average mystery that Scooby and friends have to solve. Most of these mysteries are so obvious that halfway through an episode, I can figure out who the monster is going to be before the gang does. Every once in a while, though, the truth behind the mystery is genuinely complex and esoteric, and whenever this happens, typically not even the gang figures it out, and they have to have the villain explain it to them at the end after they are unmasked. A lot of the time, especially in the later series of Scooby-Doo, Mystery Inc. will say the name of one suspect as they pull the mask off the monster, and then be surprised to discover a different person under the mask than they thought.
Working 5 nights at Fazbear's Pizzeria is a deadly enough job without also having to solve a hell of a mystery. In order to keep herself alive, Velma will need to keep an eye on the roaming animatronics with her monitor in order to stay one step ahead of the homicidal pizza critters. This means keeping an eye on the remaining power that's drained by her monitor, lights, and especially door usage. If Velma is somehow lucky enough to survive more than a day, she'll soon find that the animatronics become increasingly more active each night, requiring her to stay extra vigilant, especially in keeping an eye on Pirate Cove so Foxy don't sneak out, as well as making sure she doesn't drain her power dry. I cannot emphasize this shit enough. It's so easy to die! It is unfathomably difficult to make it through all 5 nights without getting caught a single time, let alone having to worry about your chucklefuck friends getting themselves killed. To make things even harder on Velma, good old Golden Freddy is a thing that exists. You know that if anyone was going to notice the weird posters changing in the West Hall corner, it would be Velma. And that girl, more than any chucklefuck here tonight, is going to want to solve that mystery. Unfortunately for her, that's only going to raise the possibility that she will accidentally summon Golden Freddy, an actual specter, the ghost of a child that died in the jaws of a Fazbear animatronic, directly into her office. And though it's a ghost, it does in fact insta-kill.
What usually happens over the course of a decade-spanning franchise like Scooby-Doo is that although the characters start off fairly grounded and realistic, over the course of many reboots, they become obscenely competent and infallible. See every comic book character ever. But I am pleased to say that when it comes to Scooby-Doo, one thing that every adaptation has always kept the same is that Mystery Inc. is only ever semi-competent at best. First up, Fred. Fred has an interest in traps. I say an interest and not a skill in traps because his traps, like all the plans they make, only seem to work about half the time. Sometimes the cage falls on the monster, but sometimes, like in the episode of Mystery Incorporated, Beware the Beast from Below, the cage falls on the party and they are left completely at the mercy of the monster. At this point, the monster just walks away from them because it's not a real monster, it's a guy in a suit who does not want to hurt them, but if it had been a real monster, they would have all been killed. Next up, we have a character with an actual in-universe nickname of Danger-Prone Daphne. Across all my research throughout the expanded Scoobiverse, do you know how many times I was able to find instances of Daphne being captured? 59 times! It's a lot. Next
I know,
up, we have-
damn girl. Shit.
Yeah, she's going for the record, I guess, and had it like 20 times ago. Next up, we have Velma. Yeah, she's smart, but she also has an Achilles heel of her own that every once in a while renders her completely useless. She loses her glasses. Like, a lot. Gameable recently had an episode about Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? And during that episode, Chris made a hilarious observation that whenever Velma loses her glasses, it's not just that she loses the ability to see, she goes completely insane. In the episode Foul Play in Funland, Velma loses her glasses while driving a bumper car, and seeing a blurry man in the distance, who is in truth the monster, she thinks that it is a traffic cop directing traffic, and so apparently she thinks that she's driving a regular car on a regular road, not a bumper car in an amusement park. My current theory is that the entire world of Scooby-Doo is inhabited exclusively by idiots, the good guys and bad guys alike, but Velma, although she was born an idiot, has a pair of magic glasses that grant her the ability of not being a total idiot as long as she continues to wear them. I know that Velma is going to spend most of the scenario sitting at a desk, but you know, the breeze from that fan might be enough. They've fallen off with less of an explanation before. And finally, we have Shaggy and Scooby. These two have a tendency to wander around whatever haunted locale they happen to be visiting on an eternal quest for munchies. And when they inevitably do during this scenario, it will be the last mistake they ever make. For you see, the kitchen is perhaps the deadliest room in this particular building because the security camera in there is broken. When Shaggy and Scooby go in there to make a 17-layer sandwich, Velma won't be able to keep an eye on them, and that section of the restaurant is also one of Chica's favorite hangouts. You know Chica, the chicken robot who is perpetually holding a cupcake in one hand and wearing a bib that says, "Let's eat"? Given what we know about these two, the only way that this scene can go is undeniable. Shaggy and Scooby succumb to temptation, like they always do, and try to get a bite out of that cupcake. But Chica ends up getting a bite out of them. Five Nights at Freddy's is famous for being a soul-crushingly difficult game. Completing all 5 nights in a row without dying once is difficult even for experienced players. You play and you die and you die and you die until that one time when you string together the perfect series of decisions and your reflexes are on fire and every gamble you take ends up paying off, and then you die with 3 seconds left. And that's totally fine because you as a player of video games are free to wander the multiverse. You can start a new game and possess a new security guard in an alternate reality. At any time you screw up, you can quantum leap to the next one, or you can just go play Splatoon or something. But Mystery Incorporated does not get infinite chances. This scenario requires that Mystery Inc. accomplishes something that no Five Nights at Freddy's player has ever done before: beat the game on the first try without getting murdered once. And also it requires them to do something that they have never done before: perform an investigation and solve a mystery without screwing anything up.
All right, well, that was certainly a giant bunny head leering through an open doorway of an argument. Team Scooby, could you, check inside those suits in the back room?
You two should probably split up. You can cover more ground that way.
I will
Right.
as soon as I find my glasses.
Yeah, that's cool. Dan, you go this way. I'm going to go that way. The Scooby-Doo crew is well equipped to handle Freddy Fazbear's ghost infestation. First of all, they're seasoned investigators used to dealing with monsters, both the cranky old person kind and the supernatural kind, like ghouls, vampires, werewolves, demons, zombies, werecats, the Loch Ness monster, witches, a goblin king, or a chest full of ghosts. They won't assume that the robots are humans in disguise or lose it when they figure out that these are possessed animatronics. They've seen some things by now, but let's assume that they don't put 2 and 2 together until they capture an animatronic for the traditional pulling off the mask. Fred and Daphne encounter a zombie in Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, and Fred thinks it's someone in a mask because he's seen the show. He pulls and then rips the zombie's actual head from off its body. Yes, Fred Jones decapitated a zombie with his bare hands. The gang has the skill to evaluate what's going on, and apparently they're not afraid to get their hands dirty doing it. Staying ahead of the robo-ghosts or capturing them won't be a problem. This match pits the competence of baby ghost monsters against the thinking power of adults with years of experience. The Scooby Gang has the skill to make plans, as they do in every single episode when they observe and then discuss the situation. They can make traps, something Fred excels at. Even Fred's very simplest plan, a room with someone acting as bait and a way to help the bait person escape. That is literally all it would take to trap one of the robots. They are stymied by doors. That, which the velociraptors of Jurassic Park have managed to crack, remains an unsolved mystery beyond the ken of mere child ghosts. The Scooby Gang have the advantage of their teammates to create distractions or to help escape from danger. Teamwork! Scooby and Shaggy are masters of distraction. Key to any episode is them purposefully or inadvertently distracting the villain and then escaping. Shaggy can throw his voice, a sound distraction that works on the villains in Five Nights at Freddy's. That alone could get them into one of Fred's traps. Even simpler, the whole team is adept at throwing a sheet over someone, stretching a rope across a door to trip them, or even just knocking down a whole lot of things onto the baddie. Any of these would stop the critters and is something that they have shown zero defense against. Again, if doors and lights are an issue for these creatures, a tripwire is gonna blow their minds. We have to talk about the rules of cartoons. In a single episode of Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Haunted House Hang-Up, Shaggy, Velma, and Scooby end up hiding in suits of armor, burying the bad guy in library books, breaking a 4-poster bed down on top of him, and then they turn a spinning wheel upside down and ride it like a bicycle to escape. In that same episode, Shaggy and Scooby jump into a water trough and grab some sticks. The water trough then, through the power of determined paddling, levitates and paddles through the air away from the bad guy. Every object in that pizza place is seconds away from defying all reason. They could skateboard on a box of pizza, surf on a pinball machine, bobsled on a table, and crash into the robots. And if we're talking about cartoonish things, Velma has the strength to carry every member of the team at once while running. Of course, she's going to find a way to science and technology those control room doors into staying closed. She worked for NASA after all. But even if there was a sudden power outage, she could slam those doors down with her strength alone. Gang, I think we've got the edge. I listened to the message and looked at the newspaper clippings. They've only been causing machine mayhem for a bit now. And how long have we been at this? Oh, it feels like we've been doing this since 1969 even. Remember all those spooky cases with old prospectors, groundskeepers, sea captains, and scientists? The usual suspects. They laid all those plans like committing crimes in disguise or hiding their information in codes or using secret underground layers. And we still outwitted them every time. Fred's Rube Goldberg machines are distractions and our meddling always do the trick. Oh, and the time when there were those 13 ghosts Shaggy and Scooby had to trap while traveling all over the world. Remember Zombie Island? Scary, wasn't it? Well, right until Daphne karate flipped a zombie over her shoulder into the mystery machine. If I stay in here and take care of the power supply, you can distract and disable them, or fool them into getting a haircut and then tie them up. Or if we have to, Fred can rip off their heads. Jinkies.
I mean, got the cadence down, man.
It sounded a bit less like Velma and a bit more like the Funky Phantom.
I mean, I was going for Snagglepuss, but sure.
Oh, were you? Okay.
I know. Yeah, no.
Those are adjacent to impressions. Okay, yes. I got it. Yeah.
You know what? I'll take it. But you know what? If you got Funky Phantom out of that, I'll fucking take him. Good. As a Funky Phantom, he's been, moonlighting with them.
Look. Five Nights at Freddy's is a scary video game series, as countless eardrum-bursting videos on YouTube will attest. And it's easy to see why. You're playing a sad sack night watchman who's physically incapable of leaving his chair, much less his room, and you have to deal with a piece of shit building that for some unthinkable reason runs on battery power. Why the proprietors of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza insisted on going off the grid, I don't think any of us will ever know.
The man doesn't control Freddy Fazbear.
But guess what? That aforementioned sad sack is fully capable of surviving not one, but 6 nights at Freddy's. It's a bit challenging, but it's fully possible. Now, imagine what he could do if he was smart, mobile, experienced, and was 4 people and a dog. First off, Velma in the control room is a game breaker in and of itself. She created a portable computer capable of all sorts of sci-fi bullshit when she was in middle school. Within minutes, she'll have figured out a way to get around or optimize the restaurant's ridiculously limited power system. Give her an hour and she'll have installed multiple monitors, rigged the lights to flicker constantly, which, as seen in the second game, will force most of the animatronics into a constant reset loop, and developed a cold fusion battery to keep the doors closed until the heat death of the universe. Your average garden variety Freddy's player is stuck having to make do with a ridiculously suboptimal setup. Velma mother effing Dinkley laughs in the face of such limitations. And honestly, even if the group had to deal with the ridiculous restrictions of the Five Nights games, their competition isn't really that impressive. For as scary as the animatronics are, they give up really easily. It's like they're looking around the restaurant for live humans, but when they come to a closed door, even when they've seen with their own photoreceptors that a human is behind there, they just wander off. They don't even try the other door into the office. They just say, oh well, and walk away shrugging. Except they can't even do that because their range of motion is extremely limited, which speaks very poorly to their ability to actually catch any of these meddling kids. In the game, the animatronics have the Night Guard outnumbered by 5-1, and yet they never utilize any sort of tactics. They don't communicate with each other, and they are never really seen doing anything other than blankly wandering around with all the killer instinct of a sleepwalker. I know that the lore suggests that they've been possessed by murderous ghosts, but they're not really all that murderous. Hell, you can have one of these animatronics just kind of hanging out in your doorway, making eye contact with you for like 10 full seconds before you actually need to take any kind of action. They all have different audio tells that make it ridiculously easy to tell when they're getting near, and many of them, including Freddy, Foxy, and Bonnie, have set patterns that they follow every night, always going to the exact same rooms in the same order. This level of predictability and lack of stealth means they're going to be extremely easy to avoid, ambush, and exploit, particularly with some of the traps that the gang has shown themselves capable of setting in virtually no time. They can be thrown off by playing dead, by flashing a light in their eyes, or by putting on a mask, and given how frequently Scooby and Shaggy have escaped from a monster by running around a corner and suddenly reappearing in surprisingly elaborate costumes, they'll be able to slip into a disguise instantly. We see in later games that the animatronics can be lured away by strategically placed sounds, particularly children's voices. Usually that feature is controlled from the guard's office, but when Shaggy's a skilled enough ventriloquist to realistically recreate freaking train noises, the need for a built-in audio system disappears. It's worth pointing out that when you play the Freddy's games, it's game over as soon as one of the animatronics manages to make its way into the same room as you. But the actual narrative is a bit more complicated. See, once they find you, they have to catch you. Once they catch you, they have to take you back to an empty exoskeleton. Once they've brought you to an empty exoskeleton, they have to force you into it. The assumption being that the exoskeleton has stuff in it that would make it fatal to be forced into there. And that's the point where you die. But there are so many potential points of failure in there that the Scooby Gang can exploit. They could sneak or run past the animatronics when they come into the room. They could slip out of the robot's grasp if they've been grabbed. They could find where the extra exoskeletons are stored ahead of time and take out the internal components. Then they could get captured by the animatronics all day every day and be just fine when they're put into the exoskeletons, quietly exiting after the animatronic has left the room to continue their cakewalk through this challenge. As the title suggests, the usual goal of these computer games is to survive 5 nights in the world's worst Chuck E. Cheese. But when the Scooby Gang is introduced, the animatronics at Freddy will be lucky if they last even 1 night. Rame Rover, man. Rame Rover.
Yay!
Guys, you deserve all of these Scooby snacks for that argument.
Yay.
All right.
And by Scooby snacks, of course, I mean pop brownies. But don't eat too many. Because it's time for rebuttals, and oh god, it's Team Freddy's! Jesus Christ. Okay, it's your turn. Good, go. Just go.
Hi, guys!
Hi.
Do not fucking lie to all of us here and lie in Jesus by fucking trying to make it sound like listening for their audio clues is so goddamn easy. Nobody can see this, but middle fingers for days, and it's not that fucking easy.
The audio cues are harder to follow in the video game because you're always acting from one point of observation. Like, you're always in that office, so anything you hear is, like, coming from a different part of the restaurant. But if you're wandering through and, like, Chica is walking into hanging pots and pans the way she does every time she's in the kitchen, or Freddy keeps, like, chuckling to himself, like, these are all things that are going to cue you into the fact that you have a monster approaching you at a very slow rate of speed.
And making them so fucking scared that they go running into another room that, oops, has another animatronic in it, and that's it, they're dead.
Yeah, the idea that they, like, are able to keep their cool around monsters and always make the best decision is ridiculous. Like, there are so many times where whenever Shaggy and Scooby see a monster, even if it's one that they've seen earlier in that same episode, they, like, freak out and go, and, like, run away from it.
Obviously, it doesn't matter. Them getting scared has not killed them in the past because they're also masters of getting away every time.
Yeah, I mean, like, the Great Dane is one of the fastest dogs on the planet. It can run at 30 miles an hour, and Shaggy can outrun Scooby. So, like, your robots...
fucking Usain Bolt over here!
Your robots have nowhere near the land speed capability of the Scooby Gang.
You want to talk tripwires? Can we talk tripwires real quick?
Oh man, let's go nuts. Let's get up in them tripwires.
There's actually an episode where they stretch a tripwire across the door. I believe it's in What's New Scooby-Doo? High Tech House of Horrors. They stretch a tripwire across the door, but the gang trips over it themselves, and it makes the monster escape. So, like, you're talking about, like, oh, their traps are so good. They fall into their own traps as often as they catch a monster in them.
I feel like you were talking about the one outlier, because let me tell you, I mainlined so much Scooby-Doo, and they did not trip on a tripwire once. And the stupid things tripped on the tripwire every time, and they tripped on it never. Now, did they fall down some secret stairs? Or, like, open a box that had, like, some asthma dust in it and, like, cough at an inopportune time? Sure, but get caught in their own traps? No.
They're gonna fall into the curtain in Pirate Cove into Foxy's waiting arms.
And then they're gonna use that thing and cover Foxy in it and then turn it into a cape, and then Shaggy and Scooby are gonna be like, oh, you look so dapper. Here, and then they're gonna give him a complete makeover.
In most episodes, they get a chance to try out a few different plans. You know, costumes, traps, whatever. Like, some of their plans work, some of them don't. Usually the first couple ones they try don't work, but then, like, one of them works at the end and they catch the monster. They have a lot of trial and error. But, like, getting grabbed by the monster and, like, captured for a brief period of time is kind of like a part of their process a lot of the time. You know, I said how many times Daphne got captured, but the thing you have to know is that the animatronics are absurdly strong because they can crush a human skull in their jaws, and the amount of strength that it takes to do that is like, they can crush like a crocodile. They're like thousands of times stronger than any animatronic should be.
Yeah, I mean, like, Velma is strong enough to carry the entire Scooby Gang in her arms by herself, and in the episode WrestleManiacs, she lifts up 2 huge muscular female wrestlers, one in each hand, and throws them out of the wrestling ring simultaneously, whereas Chica is apparently not strong enough to break through a glass window, because she'll just stare at you through that thing with the door closed.
I will totally admit that they don't use tactics. They are not fully sentient. They're not like people. They're not like
babies.
These adults that you deal with. They're not even children, really. They're just like these vengeful spirits. So, no, they don't do like things like smash through windows to just get at you in the office anyway. But in that same way, they're not going to be bamboozleable. And they're not going to hold back on killing you. Like all of the adults that you deal with, all of your villain adults, how they don't actually want to kill children, how they find stupid ways to try and scare you guys off and they never actually go for the kill.
Some of the time they don't encounter anything that's genuinely supernatural, but like, you know, let's talk for a second about 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo, because like, they meet a demon that lives in another dimension on the other side of a mirror. There's a ghost that sucks them into a movie. There's a demon that banishes them into a newspaper comic strip. There's a couple of ghosts that are basically Maleficent.
There's a couple of ghosts that are based on Abbott and Costello. There's a trio of witches based on the Three Stooges.
Well,
they are genuinely magical, but they're a bunch of morons.
How about, like, Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost, where they encounter an actual ghost of an actual witch who uses actual magic and is trying to kill them and fails to.
Do they encounter anything that the moment it gets in the same room with them will kill them?
But see, that's not what the animatronics do. They have to grab you, pull you to an exoskeleton, and then force you in there. And that's assuming the exoskeleton hasn't been tampered with first.
The game implies that you are insta-dead. You are
you want to tamper with an exoskeleton? You want to tamper with an exoskeleton? Sister location, you play a mechanic who's supposed to repair the animatronics. You like crawl through vents and repair stuff. And if you don't do things in the exact right order, like if you don't press the right buttons in the right order or open the thing just the right way, the animatronics kill you. Things will like snap closed on you and crush you, or you'll activate the animatronic and it will like smash your face because it will just go murderous.
But none of them are Velma, and none of them made like a giant, amazing briefcase computer in middle school or worked for NASA.
Velma can't fix that place up with the supplies available and also stay alive. That's ridiculous.
Also, Daphne has stuff in her purse for MacGyver purposes.
Yeah, she MacGyvers the shit out of stuff with her purse.
All right. Comparing Daphne to MacGyver is about where we're drawing the line here. Thank you. Team Scooby, like, rebut.
Claire, you mentioned that Daphne gets kidnapped in 59 episodes. There are 327 episodes of Scooby-Doo, not including the series Be Cool Scooby-Doo, which doesn't have an episode count up yet, and not including the movies. So if we're taking 59 captures in 327 episodes, that's less than 18% that she gets captured, which means that statistically speaking, she won't get captured at all even over the course of 5 nights.
She'll get captured about once. 18 if you round to 20, that's about once.
Yeah,
and
if
that's
you
all it
round
takes
up,
to
if
die.
you use math as a cudgel, she might get captured once.
18 is closer to 20% than it is to 0%, sir.
Get the fuck out of here with your numbers.
Okay, then you know what? If we're gonna, I'm gonna take the opposite tack then. Dan, we're splitting the party. Okay. I have to ask, do your characters have a defense against tables turned into bobsleds that hit them in the gut? Do they have a defense against having masses of pizza thrown at their heads like missiles? Because that's the kind of shit that Shaggy and Scooby could do.
They are in a children's establishment. They get like shit thrown at them all the time.
Have they ever dealt with somebody who can skateboard on a pizza?
Probably.
Who can
fucking
use
toddlers?
Who can use a pizza paddle as an actual paddle to gondolier themselves through the air?
Oh, you're right. Never mind. We lose. Yeah,
All right.
yeah, no, we're gonna lose.
I knew it.
You guys were talking about how difficult it's going to be for them to solve the mystery of what's going on to this place. Think about how the Scooby Gang typically approaches things, right? They set a trap, the monster gets caught, and then they rip off the monster's mask. That's the usual order of operations. When they rip off the animatronic's mask, aka its head, there is a small rotting child's body inside the animatronic. Like, that's the mystery. They're like, oh, this probably has something to do with what's going on here.
And you fucking know Fred can do it.
That's not a really, like, hardcore thing that's gonna be. That's not really like a...
I mean, the parents have been complaining that the animatronics smell like corpses and have had blood leaking out of them. And if we assume that the purple guy shoved the children's bodies into the animatronics, which certainly seems to be the implication, the children's bodies do seem to be in there, or at least exhibiting signs of having once held bodies, which the gang are going to figure out immediately.
How are you going to touch them without them instantly ripping you apart? If you could catch them.
I mean, the very basic things of Scooby-Doo will work again. Like, if you knock a bunch of heavy shit over, it will incapacitate them. They cannot move under 2 tons of shit that's been knocked over. And for some goddamn reason, the Scooby Gang can knock over 2 tons of shit.
They most certainly can if I talked about how strong they were. Also, they're not going to be fooled by costumes. At least Foxy won't, because in the second game, even if you're wearing a mascot head, Foxy can see through it and can rip you apart.
Yeah, but I mean, Foxy, along with many of the other animatronics, can be reset when you blink a light in its eyes. So that's all we have to...
You're not going to know that, though.
You get instructions on all of this stuff through the phone conversations you get at the beginning of each night. So,
you don't get those instructions until the second game.
Right, but Velma will be able to figure out what's going on with these animatronics. Like,
before she dies? Before somebody else dies?
Dude, she's gonna be able to upgrade that office into a freaking, like, barricade.
She doesn't do that, like, in every episode. There's plenty of times where she has, like, opportunities to do that kind of thing, and she fails to do so. So it's not, like, a foregone conclusion that that's gonna happen. Especially if she has other things to worry about.
Okay, in the episode, That's Snow Ghost, I don't know what the fuck that episode title was trying to pun there. I really don't. Velma and Shaggy get snuck up on and kidnapped by villains with Scooby, first of all. With Scooby, the fucking dog that should have good dog senses, right there. And he's like, whoa, where did they go? But in the next scene, Velma is tied down to a log with chains. And then Scooby has to go save her.
And Scooby does save her.
She would have just been dead normally. Also, Shaggy later on, he like comes walking out, like talking like a ghost and spray painted white. Like just being spray painted white was enough to fool his dumbass that he was a ghost.
What you're missing is the reason that the Scooby Gang survives is because they have teamwork, because they are thinking creatures that work together. That is why they survive every time, and that is why they will continue to survive now.
You guys were saying that the tripwire stuff wouldn't work because they're unfoolable, like that hijinks don't work on them. A tripwire is just a tripwire. Like, there's no hijinks involved, and they don't look down whenever they walk. They're not observant. You could just lay one there, and it would be fine, and they would just fall. And if they're as heavy as you say, they will crash and be destroyed by the fall of their own weight.
Their super powerful pneumatic legs will rip through it, and it won't trip them. Or, like I said, the only episode I saw with the tripwire, they fell into it, and the monster got away. That was the only... So, like, I don't know.
Then we're getting into, like, angles and shit. I don't want to do geometry on this show.
Why on earth were children's animatronic things made this strong? I don't know, but they are. Like, that is not an arguable fact. They are so stupid strong.
Look, what else is stupid strong is zombies.
Are they?
Zombies have rigor mortis enhanced muscles.
That's
human cords are nasty strong.
Watch any of the Living Dead movies. But like, you know what else? You know what else is true about zombies is that they're unintelligent, they don't coordinate, and they don't organize, and they can be out-thought and outfought by smarter people who are better organized, which is exactly what this situation is here.
And
yet
their
they kill
rotting
some-
neck flesh means their heads are easier to remove.
Yeah.
And also the zombies in that movie weren't trying to kill them, they were peaceful.
Dan, I've seen you play plenty of zombie games. You die a lot, so don't play like you so hot.
All right.
Wow, this got personal.
I was
On
watching you
that
play
note-
Last of Us recently.
Well, it's the 5th night. The monsters are moving around faster than ever, but it's 5 a.m. and Velma still has 5% power left. 4%. Come on, 6 a.m. 3%? 2%? Come on, 6. Come the fuck on already, 1 goddamn percent! And, oh great, now the lights are out. Oh. For a moment there's silence. Then the soft strains of the Toreador March. Which sounds like it should be out of Vampire the Masquerade, but whatever. Fill the room. And Velma sees a pair of wide, adorable eyes in the doorway, moving slowly toward her. She doesn't know what's happened to the others, but for Velma, this is surely the end. At least she's wearing her glasses. Suddenly, uncharacteristic rage fills her body. Screw this! She's Velma Dinkley, damn it! And she's not going down to this bargain basement Chuck E. Cheese mascot!
Ah, Chuck E. Cheese! Miles, he said,
Yay!
made a reference to Chuck
I
E.
know!
Cheese for the first
Oh
time
my
in the
God.
episode.
It's never
It is
happened
like
before.
Chuck E. Cheese.
No one's ever made
So
that
observant.
comparison. I know. As the animatronic nightmare lunges for her, Velma lunges as well, grappling with the monster back and forth across the room. It's trying to drag her away toward one of the costumes, but her hands are on its neck, her hands are on its face, grasping, pulling, until the face begins to come off? It was a mask all along. With all her strength, Velma tears it off the face of her attacker, triumphantly revealing it as the lightning round!
Ah, that was awesome!
What a twist!
Oh man, that was the best. Old man lightning round. It was here.
I knew it was coming, but I didn't know that was
Best
coming.
lightning round introduction ever.
Actually, it's somebody Velma had seen around town while going to apply for this job. She gasps in recognition. Mr. Afton? The friendly old engineer? What are you doing here? Even as she asks the question, Velma already knows the answer. Blah, 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 mundane human motivation, blah, 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 would have gotten away with it, blah, 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 meddling kids, blah, blah, blah. It's always the same. Only Mr. Afton isn't actually saying any of those things. He's just laughing, in fact, like maniacally. And his voice is getting deeper, and now he's, oh my god, now he's ripping off the Mr. Afton face too! And what the hell is that? Is that charred flesh? And are your fingers made of knives? And dear god, that is an awful sweater! Welcome to Freddy's Pizza, bitch! The man growls.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, yay.
That's right! Both the Scooby Gang and the 4 animatronic monsters who are probably actually haunted by the souls of dead children are now being hunted through their tormented pizza dreams by none other than Freddy Krueger. But these are your dreams. Your dream warriors, advocates. How will you use those dreams to fight off your enemy? What weapons or equipment will you conjure from your subconscious? I mean, in this case, I'm assuming that androids do in fact dream of electric sheep. What scenes from your character's pasts can you use to lure Freddy into a trap? And most of all, now that you've discovered you're asleep, how will you force yourselves to wake up? So, Team Freddy's went first in the main round, which means that Team Scooby-Doo Gang will go first in the lightning round. Team Scoobies.
I don't feel like the Scooby Gang is going to be summoning much in the way of, weapons or equipment. I mean, obviously they'll bring up the mystery machine because that's kind of a no-brainer. But really, what you learn watching a lot of Scooby-Doo is that their real strength and their real weaponry is their friends. So, Freddy may think he can menace 4 kids and their dog, but can he menace the 3 Stooges? Can he menace the Harlem Globetrotters?
Oh, shit. Oh, shit.
Can he menace Batman?
Not as cool as the Harlem Globetrotters. I was gonna say.
Well, he's got the weaponry for sure. He has plenty of gadgets. And this is the Adam West Batman, I will remind
Oh, shit.
you.
Never mind. Take it back.
Yeah, with the one with the really surprised-looking eyebrows
That's right.
drawn on his mask for some reason.
You gotta know he's surprised.
Yes. Nothing scares criminals like expressing surprise. Or maybe
What
it's
does he see behind me?
maybe it's a guide for criminals. It's like, this is the face you should be making upon seeing me.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, I didn't mean to get off on this Adam West tangent.
Can I just say real quick that I didn't mean to go off on this Adam West tangent is a sentence that is said not nearly enough of the time.
Yes.
Okay, I you know what? I will jump in here just to say that I think there will be minimal weapons, but I think knowing Shaggy and Scooby, those weapons are going to have a particular flavor to them. A food flavor. It's going to be a jousting pole made of salami, shurikens made of, like, croissants that have been glued together with Laffy Taffy. It's going to be a kunai from a sharpened waffle cone with a deadly point on it, dipped in some sort of wasabi, so if you get it in your eye, it really hurts. Cinnamon sticks as some sort of pellet gun that you blow into, and it's full of rock salt and rock sugar. So that way, if you get hit with it, it's really gonna sting quite a bit.
Quite a bit indeed.
He's got very sensitive skin because he's got that burn, so he's gonna really feel it.
So in terms of the scenes from their past that they're going to be weaponizing somehow, so there's this series called A Pup Named Scooby-Doo, where it's them as kids, and like, in this series, you learn that they've been encountering monsters their entire lives. There's this one episode where it shows that Scooby and Shaggy encountered a Bride of Frankenstein and a sea monster when they were infants. And they were like solving cases since they were actual literal babies. So there's plenty for them to pull from. But I think that what's really going to drive the last nail into Freddy's coffin here is when they manage to trap Freddy in an inescapable memory with Scrappy-Doo.
Oh, no.
And then that's it.
Oh, you guys are monsters.
Oh, you know what? Because I was gonna
You're
go
the real monsters here.
I was gonna go a very different route. So I was gonna say that they've probably encountered Freddy at some point in their childhood, and that they're going to go back to a memory that brings Freddy back to a time whenever he already met them. But now they're adults and they see like how hurt he is by his terrible fashion sense and like his poor life decisions. And Daphne she sees a sad sack in need of a makeover. And she is going to take him to Fantasy Mall, like Dream Mall, and get him, you know, some moisturizer, get him a better sweater, get him some skinny jeans, some cigarette pants for dudes, and then also some sexy loafers. And then Fred's going to be like, you know what? You've got some shoulders. I bet we can do something with this. And then there's going to be a lot of like working out. And Velma, I think Daphne's aesthetic is probably not going to be quite what Freddy's going for. So I think Velma's going to have to take him back to Dream Mall to kind of butch it up a little bit. But that's by the end of it, he's going to wake up from the nightmare that has been his own unself-actualization.
Wow.
Friendship!
Yep, you're right. We definitely split the party there, Bob.
Wait, are you saying that Bob solved the problem with friendship?
I mean,
Amazing.
Basically, yeah.
That's the only way I know how to solve problems.
In terms of, what's going to inspire them to finally wake themselves up, there's something to be said about living in a dream world, but if they never return to the real world, like, think of all the traps that Fred will never get to make. Think of all the Scooby snacks that they'll never get to eat. Think of all the nasty fan fiction that these guys will not be able to inspire if they remain in the dream world. Like, they have a purpose, and it is not being served by staying in the dreams. They have a mission in life, and that mission depends on them returning to wakefulness.
Did I just hear nasty fan fiction?
Yeah.
No, I'm leaving.
Bob.
You have not. Yeah.
I threw my
You're
voice
talking
and made
Scooby-Doo.
it sound like Dan.
You want to talk nasty fan fiction?
Oh, no.
Our side of the table.
Let's talk some nasty fan fiction, Team Freddy.
Poor
mean,
Chica! Leave
do it.
Chica alone, you freaks! She's
God,
dead.
I want
And
to
also
hear
a bird.
I want to hear about the pirate fox and the freaky pirate sex.
The booty. Foxy likes the
I mean,
booty.
why do they call him Golden Freddy?
Yeah.
Oh,
I
he
mean,
used to be
I
regular
gotta
Freddy.
say,
Yeah.
if they
They're
didn't want to go that
ghost
route, they should have thought of a name that was different.
Oh, God,
That's
this
their
is
fault.
the worst.
Anyway,
He does have a different
Team
name for it.
Freddy's, why don't you, for God's sakes, take this microphone away from me?
I see them as luring Freddy into their 8-bit minigame world. You know the ones, if you're actually good at playing the game. That shit is so damn hard to figure out how to actually win and keep on going. Freddy is gonna wind up getting trapped with the 8-bit purple man who will insta-dismember Freddy. Just like he did to Freddy. Spoilers. Anyway.
Yeah, all those mini games, there's a lot of them in Freddy's 3. There's also some in Sister Location. In order to beat them, you have to do the most unintuitive, stupid shit. And if you don't, you just get like ripped apart. Like if you go into where it says like goal or exit, that is how you fail. And you have to like find the one pixel of the wall that you have to rub against to get to the secret area. And then there's another secret area. And if you go through the exit there, you also die. You have to find a different secret area within the secret area. Like it's just stupid. And also like one other thing that occurred to me was one of the theories that the guy on the phone floats to in the first game for why they're going around like murdering people and needing to wander is he said, hey, if you had to sing those same songs every day for 20 years, I mean, you'd get pretty tired of them too. So I can imagine some version of an endless hell where they're just hearing the same songs over and over again. And if that's not enough, one of the ghosts who's going to be here is the crying boy, who's generally thought to be the ghost that's inside of Golden Freddy. And Five Nights at Freddy's 4 is actually from his perspective. It's like a memory from when he was alive, where he's a little boy in his house, and there's like monsters stalking around his house and everything. And so what he's going to do is he's going to summon him into that room, and Freddy is going to become the evil monster in the closet, who, if you don't check on him, he's going to burst out and kill you. And the crying boy is going to be, of course, the little boy on the bed. And then the crying boy is going to, of course, open his closet door and shine a flashlight on Freddy and reveal that Freddy is, in fact, a tiny Freddy plushie who can't actually hurt him. And then the crying boy's going to pick up his Freddy plushie and go back to bed and snuggle with it. And then he's going to wake up in the morning and everything's going to be okay.
Not usually how Nightmare on Elm Street movies end. Exactly, but...
I do have a thought for weapons. I guess Foxy has the hook, but we know Foxy doesn't use that hook. Foxy uses his face. Anyway, Chica got her a nightmare cupcake. And that's not innuendo, you dirty ass internet. Okay, so okay.
You don't have to talk to the internet. We're right here.
Okay. Real talk, everybody, real talk. Those cupcakes look fucking delicious. And I don't see Freddy being able to resist. Like, he's been killing kids a real long time. He needs to treat himself. He should let himself have a cupcake. And then, they're dead. Dan's looking at me like, you're going to make the neighbors mad.
Yep.
And I don't give a fuck.
All right, well, after listening to all these arguments, I think there's only one conclusion that can be really, conclusively drawn right now, which is that I could really go for some fucking pizza.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm on this gluten-free diet right now, and I can't actually eat pizza, so what we have here is we've accidentally slipped into one of my nightmares. So I'm going to go deal with that and the inability to eat pizza. And Freddy, come back here with that slice, man.
I mean...
Come back here now.
Amy's pizza's kind of okay.
I feel like the worst part about working the night guard shift at Freddy Fazbear's is the fact that it has to smell like pizza all the time. Really awful, cheap children's pizza. Like, give me murderous robots all day, every day. But if I come home smelling like crappy pizza, that's the nightmare right there.
I would like to remind you that one person on this call has a job delivering pizza, and therefore has a car that perpetually smells like pizza.
But, it's pretty good pizza.
I just want to give a big fucking thank you to Markiplier, Hank Green, and then I watched a couple Justin and Griffin McElroy Let's Plays of Five Nights at Freddy's, and they're all so fucking funny.
These are all on YouTube.
On YouTube, well, yeah.
I didn't have time to play all of them. I played the first one a long time ago, but I did now basically in preparation for this watch all of the videos, and then I watched all the theory videos and all of the discussions and stuff and you can go so deep into Freddy's, but it's really great. It's awesome. I was only sort of familiar with it before, but I'm really into it now. I think it's super interesting. So
it reminds me of back when I was first playing Silent Hill 2. My friends and I played through it once, and we got the bad ending the first time. And we didn't realize at the time that there were multiple endings, because, we didn't get any of the guides, and, we weren't looking up this stuff on the internet. We were just sort of playing it cold.
So you were just well, that was fun.
I mean, basically, but, as a result, because, we only saw a little portion of the story, and we hadn't played any other Silent Hill games at the time, we were coming up with all these theories about, what the hell was going on in Silent Hill.
Oh, yeah.
God.
And so, that's still a part of my big headcanon with Silent Hill, even though all that stuff has been, disproven and revealed and such.
That's so crazy.
So, what are your guys' power rankings for the different Scooby-Doo series?
Little Kit watched the OG shit, so
Yeah.
that's kind of that'll always be my idea of who the Scooby Gang is.
I think my number one is definitely Mystery Incorporated. I thought it was so good. I love the art style, and it's just, I just love it. I was really getting into it when I was watching it. So
I've heard it's very good. Unfortunately, that's one of the ones I haven't watched yet. But
Be Cool Scooby-Doo is an abomination.
What
it's
is?
just Be Cool Scooby-Doo.
Would you say it's too cool?
Here's the thing.
The humor's okay, but it's basically Family Guy.
I totally acknowledge that, and I do not dispute that whatsoever.
Yeah.
I will say, I watched some clips of that show, and there was one bit where Shaggy and Scooby disguised themselves in order to throw off like an evil zombie jester that was chasing them.
Yes!
And they did such a good job that there was this extended sequence where the zombie jester like thinks he's not funny, gets on a bus, like goes back to his hometown. There's this long scene of him like sitting on the bus with his head in his hands, like staring out the window, and you see him like walk up to his crappy house, and then you see a shot of him in the bathroom just like sadly brushing his teeth with his shoulders all hunched, and then you see him like lying awake in bed, slowly drifting off to sleep. And then he realizes that it was them in disguise. And that was hilarious.
Yeah. No, it's I do think that the humor can be good sometimes. Like I said, I think it's like a little bit too Family Guy for me at times, but there is some good stuff. I did laugh out loud a few times watching it, but I just can't stand the art style. It's just so bad. Like I can't especially because I had just watched a bunch of Mystery Incorporated, which is so gorgeous. It's so gorgeous. Like every object and every background is so well designed and like so iconic. And so it's like, it's very true to the spirit of Scooby-Doo, but just better. It's just good. And it just bothers me that like every cartoon looks like friggin' Family Guy now.
I have to say that it surprised me how much I fell in love all over again with the backgrounds for original Scooby-Doo. That sort of incongruously well, like over-engineered background. I don't know. It does a thing. It's real good.
I think the perfect Scooby-Doo is one that's not supernatural, where all of the mysteries are just mundane and solvable and prove that, like, you know, reason always trumps superstition. That having been said, my sentimental favorite is 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo. And despite the fact that it has Scrappy-Doo, and despite the fact that it has Flim Flam, like...
And, Dan, I will point out, no Velma.
No Velma.
The fuck?
It has Vincent Van Gogh.
Yes.
Who is the best. So that's
Played by
my...
Vincent Price.
Yep, that is my totally non-intellectual, completely emotional favorite from when I was a kid.
The one that, like, will always have a place in my heart is, I believe it was called Scooby-Doo and the Ghoul School.
Oh my god! I remember when that came out.
Yeah! It was the one with all the, like,
the little
there was
tiny
a bunch
girl
of, like,
ghosts.
the kid monsters.
I didn't see that one.
Everyone Google it right now.
Yeah,
like, I feel like everyone's seen at least a little bit of it.
I remember seeing the trailers for it before things that we had rented or before things that we had bought on VHS and being like, look at that tiny little Bride of Frankenstein child. Like, and it was all a girls' school. So it was like little girl monsters.
Little ginger werewolf girl. So cute. The little Annie, basically, an Annie werewolf.
Wow. I never heard of this thing. We're going to do Ghoul School versus Hogwarts? Is that what's going to happen?
It's Ghoul School versus Monster High. Come on. Like.
You know what? When you're right, you're right. Absolutely.
All right. Hi, guys.
Hey, Miles.
Hey, how was your time away?
It was very conflicted.
Yeah.
I thought a lot about this. I had a shot, to be honest.
How was that?
There's no gluten in whiskey.
I was going to say a gluten-free
Did you have those
shot.
veggie chips?
No, I don't have any of those. All right, so this was ridiculously hard for me to decide. I did what we do sometimes, and I was like, all right, what's the crux? Like, what's the one question? And I found it, and I was like, all right, great, I found the question. That'll decide it. And I was like, what's the answer? I don't, damn it. Like, okay, so here's what I think it comes down to. Is this an episode of Scooby-Doo? Or is this a horror video game?
Yeah.
Is the Scooby Gang, like, does their wackiness and their inherent ability to, like, turn situations where they're up against actual demons into just another episode of Scooby-Doo? Like, is that what happens? Or are they 5 kids who suddenly found themselves in a real fucking ghost story and now are being picked off one by animatronic nightmare monsters? And I seriously went back and forth with this because, like, honestly, they could all die. So, like, the ones who aren't Velma, like, I seriously think they're dead. Like, no matter who wins, those kids are dead. Because
chassis enema for you. You get a chassis enema. You get a chassis enema.
Because, like, the point about the kitchen, yeah, there's no way Shaggy and Scooby are staying out of there, and there's no way they're walking out of the kitchen alive. And, like, Daphne, yeah, dead. Fred, trap falls, dead. But, like, I also feel like, so, you know, you guys were talking a lot, Team Freddy's, about how doing it the first time without dying, or even doing it at all without dying once, is, like, unheard of, right? And Team Scooby kind of leaned a lot on teamwork and being able to, like, come back with different plans, and you know, so I think in the beginning, like, the first few days, this is gonna very much resemble a Scooby-Doo episode. Like, you know, fucking everybody's alive, and you know, Jinkies, what was that bunny about? And we should make a plan. And they go back, and, like, day 4, day 5, like, motherfuckers start dying, and then it becomes, like, more of a horror movie thing. So really the question is, like, who comes out of it? And I think, and I just, I hate making this decision. I feel like, in the end, it's a fucking episode of Scooby-Doo. Yes. And I feel like Scooby-Doo takes the day. Just, like, barely.
Oh, man.
Barely. And it kills me to say it, because I want the horror monsters to win.
Man.
But I think that in the end, one member of the gang will be alive, will know that these are the spirits of haunted children, and will be able to do something. And I think it's most likely for that to be Velma, and because of that, I'm gonna give it to Scooby. God damn it.
So when it's time for the Smash Bash, can we just take Velma because everyone else is dead?
I am seriously okay with that.
I accept losing to Velma, not the other chuckle fucks. They're all fucking, they're all just goopy.
I mean, Velma built a robot when she was in middle school, so like, she knows her way around these doofuses.
One thing I want to point out, I really liked the idea of them taking the mask off of the robot and finding the dead children inside, and then figuring out the mystery that way. That was brilliant.
That was a great point.
Really cool. Like, I thought, like, it didn't occur to me that was how they could solve the mystery, but it actually makes a lot of sense. And that's, like, I really like that idea. So good job.
Because I swear, I almost gave it to you guys because I was like, wait a minute, they have to solve the mystery.
Yeah.
Like, just surviving is not enough.
Yeah.
And then I was like, but if she takes the, I think Velma will do it. I think the others are dead. That's my ruling.
Good job, you guys, though. That
my god.
I felt like I was playing Five Nights at Freddy's. You kept jumping out at me from those doors.
Can't make any mistakes. Gotta have the perfect run to beat it.
Absolutely. I was down to that 1% right as Miles was given the verdict.
The clock is switching. Ding, ding. Yay!
Well, congratulations. You get $120.
Oh my god.
That's not
I
enough.
know. That's the problem with that fucking game, is what it is it's really a nightmare about, like, subsistence wages.
Time for the kid. Thanks. Shit. Okay. Over to Twitter. Thank you to Hayden Reynolds, Cosplay Fiend, Add a Son of a Gun, the Politipop Podcast, and Florian. Thank you so much for tweeting about us or retweeting our stuff. Over to Tumbles. Thank you to Forte Joestar, Changing Shades, Jeep Rhyme. Jeep Rhyme, always getting that in there. Always getting that reblog in there. Thank you, Jeep Rhyme. And Sid Rabbit Blog for just reblogging our stuff. And on Facebook, thank you to Jeffrey Ketchum, Mike Booch, Viola Sanderlin, and Robert Ramsey.
We also wanted to thank Cosplay Fiend, who was the fan who suggested this very match. We've actually been wanting to do this for a long time, but we knew we had to wait until Smashtoberfest, so here it is. And of course, we want to thank Stephen Langley and Zach Ford, the two featured patrons in this match, who were various tragic security guards. So thank you guys for your patronage. And if you want to get in on our storyline, all you have to do is pledge at least $1 a month on our Patreon page, and you'll find yourself thrown into a horrific storyline not of your own design, which is all any of us can ever ask for.
You know, considering now that you're part of the Freddy lore, there's probably way more to y'all's shit than we actually know.
Absolutely.
You're probably gonna there's probably gonna be like little mini games where you find out deep shit about
and terrible fan fiction.
No, leave Chica alone. Fuck.
I think we have some time for a quick anniversary question, and this one comes in from Duffy. And Duffy asks, who's the one character you dread having to advocate for?
Well, I ain't never advocating for Doom. I'll tell you that.
Most things with enormous continuity.
Ah,
Like, pretty much all comic book characters.
Never
especially
again.
from, like the big two, like Marvel and DC. Like, it's always just like, oh god. Also, like, a lot of things that are big cultural properties that a lot of people care a lot about that I'm not as familiar with. Like, someone like Doctor Who, I think. I would just be like, I'd be terrified because I'd be afraid I'd screw it up because I'm not as big of a fan as other people, you know, so.
yeah, same.
In terms of difficulty, like, I repped Superman, I repped Aquaman against Namor, like, I'd like to think I'd be willing to advocate for just about anyone, like,
Okay.
I think having to absorb some of the source material would be the actual troublesome part. Like, we've spoken before about doing a match involving some of the characters from Cars, which is a franchise I am not fond of.
There you go.
I guess I'm so unfamiliar with all of them that it is broadly the same for me with everything. And so I'm like, well, I guess I'm learning a thing, and then it's usually fine. So I can't really think of one where I hate them.
I mean, unfamiliarity isn't really the biggest problem for me. Like, I'll research anything, and, like, I feel pretty confident in my ability to come up with a bullshit argument no matter, like, how much source material there is to parse.
Miles, you are the best bullshitter I've ever
thank
seen.
you. I feel like I'd have a problem if it was, like, a character that I was just fundamentally opposed to their very existence or what they represented. Like, I could never have represented Don Draper. I would have flatly refused to do it.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
If we ever did, like, I don't know, John Galt. I would never
I don't think
represent
that's gonna
John
happen.
Galt.
He's from Atlas Shrugged.
I know we're like Elmer Gantry, figures from American literature.
Yeah, no thanks.
Thank you, Duffy, for that question, and thank you for listening to this week's episode of Smash Fiction. Next week, Smashtoberfest continues, and it will be Michonne versus the White Walkers.
Smash Fiction is produced by Miles Schneiderman and production assistant Sharon Schneiderman, with logo design by Claire Mulcairn.
Special thanks to Kevin MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod at Incompetech.com for our theme song, Hitman.
You can find us on Twitter at SmashFic Podcast and search for the Smash Fiction Podcast on Facebook, Tumblr, and YouTube.
Subscribe on Apple Podcasts or your podcatcher of choice, and if you leave us a good review, we shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
Smash Fiction is made possible thanks to our supporters on Patreon at patreon.com/smashfictionpodcast. Please consider donating as little as $1 each month. It helps us keep the show going, and we have great rewards and extra content for those who help us out.
If you have any suggestions, feedback, or other contributions, send them to us at smashfictionpodcast@gmail.com and help us continue the fight. Team Freddy's.
Very good.
Easy there.
Fucking hurt.
Yeah, those screams are not doable by a human.
I did that so hard, I'm pretty sure I literally just had a Charlie horse in my balls.
Oh, shit!
What, aren't you supposed to, like, I don't know, like, rub them vigorously or something?
Look, I know it doesn't sound possible. I'm just telling you what I felt in my balls just now.
Jeez.